Cold has no mercy. It doesn't negotiate. And during World War II, winter killed quietly, relentlessly, and often faster than bullets. Yet in the middle of ruined cities, frozen barracks, and bombed-out shelters, something almost laughably small helped thousands survive nights that should have been fatal. Not a furnace, not a fireplace, a tiny heat candle, cheap, portable, easy to ignore, and powerful enough to mean the difference between waking up or not waking up at all. This is one of those survival stories history rarely slows down to tell. But on the before modern times, this is exactly where we lean in. When cold became a weapon. By the early years of World War II, winter had turned into an enemy of its own. Fuel shortages were everywhere. Coal was rationed. Electricity failed regularly. Central heating was a luxury that vanished fast once bombing raids intensified. Civilians huddled in basements and shelters where damp air soaked into bones. Soldiers slept in unheated quarters, barns and makeshift dugouts. Frostbite wasn't just a battlefield problem. It was a home front killer. What made the cold so deadly wasn't just temperature. It was duration. Long nights, weeks without proper heat. Bodies slowly losing the fight to hypothermia while people thought they were just tired. Something small was needed. Something that didn't depend on infrastructure. Something that could be carried, hidden, and used anywhere. That's where the heat candle entered the story. What this tiny candle really was. This wasn't a decorative candle meant for a dinner table. Heat candles were designed to burn long and steady, not bright and flashy. Most were made from paraffin or tallow, materials cheap enough to mass-produce even during wartime shortages. Some were packed in small metal tins. Others were thick, squat cylinders meant to burn for hours without tipping over. One candle could burn anywhere from 4 to 8 hours, depending on its size and composition. That mattered, because the goal wasn't to heat a room. It was to heat you, your hands, your feet, the air just around your chest while you slept. People quickly learned that even a small, steady heat source could raise the temperature in a confined space by several degrees. In survival terms, that difference is massive. Why it worked when everything else failed. Here's the secret most people don't understand. Survival heating isn't about comfort. It's about slowing heat loss. A single heat candle placed correctly could stop the body from bleeding warmth into the cold air. Civilians placed them under tables, inside metal buckets, or near brick walls that absorbed and slowly released heat. In shelters, candles were set low, allowing warm air to rise just enough to prevent freezing. Some families clustered around one flame, rotating hands and feet like it was a campfire shrunk down to the size of a fist. Soldiers did the same thing in dugouts and foxholes. One candle inside a helmet, a tin, or a small improvised stove could keep fingers functional and feet alive. Frostbite cases dropped when soldiers learned how to use heat candles intelligently instead of wasting precious energy shivering. This wasn't luxury. This was survival math. What made the heat candle so effective was, well, efficiency. You see, fireplaces lose heat, and large stoves, they need fuel and ventilation. But a candle, it produces localized warmth. It heats the immediate air, the nearby objects, and most importantly, the human body closest to it. People learned to pair candles with insulation, blankets, coats, even newspaper. A candle under a blanket tent could create a pocket of warm air that felt shockingly different from the frozen room outside it. Brick walls, ceramic pots, and metal containers acted as primitive heat sinks, holding warmth long after the flame died. This wasn't written in manuals. It spread by word of mouth, you know, one cold night teaching the next. This wasn't a magic solution. Candles came with danger, poor ventilation could lead to oxygen depletion, improper placement caused fires, and, well, desperate people sometimes burned whatever wax or fat they could find, producing toxic smoke. But experience hardened technique. Candles stayed low. Ventilation was cracked open just enough. Flames were shielded. Survivors learned fast because mistakes were punished immediately. That learning curve saved lives. Big machines get remembered. Tanks, planes, factories. But small survival tools fade into the background. Heat candles didn't win battles. They won nights, quietly, invisibly. After the war, central heating returned. Fuel flowed again. People wanted to forget the cold. The candle went back to being ordinary. But its wartime role remains one of the clearest examples of human adaptation under pressure. A reminder that survival doesn't always come from innovation. Sometimes it comes from using something simple, correctly, and relentlessly. The lesson here isn't about nostalgia, it's about resilience. Modern systems fail too. Power grids collapse, fuel shortages happen. Extreme weather doesn't care what year it is. That tiny heat candle proves something timeless. When conditions turn hostile, survival favours those who understand fundamentals. Heat retention, energy efficiency, smart use of limited resources. World War II didn't just test armies, it tested ordinary people. And sometimes, you know, the smallest flame carried the biggest weight. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe forgotten survival knowledge deserves a spotlight, then you already belong here. Subscribe to the Before Modern Times, share this with someone who values real history, and keep these lessons alive. Because the past still has a lot to teach us, if we're willing to listen.